You are listening to Be Amplified, the podcast with Brie and Thais, episode 39. Hey Amplifiers, welcome to Be Amplified, the podcast. My name is Thais.
And I'm Brie Seeley. We are the co-founders of the Amplify Collective,
a movement aimed at radically disrupting how purpose-driven women connect and operate in the world.
Because we believe it's not just what you do, but who you are that matters.
Each week, join us for messages and interviews that will leave you feeling amplified and ready to change the world.
Let's do this.
Hello!
Good morning, Amplifiers.
It's Thais and Brie. And, okay, seriously though, Brie, like, why? We had 45 minutes before the last episode and this episode, and this is when you choose to eat your fucking banana. Stinking up my tiny little closet with your banana. You should feel really proud of yourself or something.
It's so good.
Oh my God.
I have to stay healthy.
Okay, but you had time to eat the banana before we got.
I was dealing with adulting things. I was adulting.
We sit down in the closet, and the minute we sit down, she fucking starts to unpeel her banana. And I'm like, how are we supposed to start a podcast with you eating a fucking banana? Okay, fine. You know what? It's going to be the Thais show today. Woo! I'm excited for Team Thais to take over the podcast until Brie finishes her... Ew, it's bruised. Oh, get me out of here. Okay. Yeah, please put the banana peel down on my closet floor. Please do that. Oh my God, we're having so many issues today. Happy Monday.
It's a Monday.
We got a really cool guest on today. Sheila Viers is our dear friend here in LA. She's a badass woman, and we are so excited to have her come on to our show. And she's going to be talking all about what she does and who she is and the impact she's making. It's going to be good shit.
Yep. Before we get there, just a reminder that we have an event coming up at the end of April.
Yes, we do.
That you can join us for. So we want to invite you to come hang out with us in downtown LA at Industrious and mix and mingle and unnetwork and champagne and all of the things.
All of the things.
So you can go to our website, theamplifycollective.com, click on the events tab, and be taken to the magical world of Eventbrite to grab your ticket to join us.
And of course, doors are still open for our The Amplified Woman, our 6-month incubator for entrepreneurs who want to unbusiness their business, remove the hustle from their bustle. And
that was good.
Yeah, you see that? Like that. I wish I had a third one.
Wait, pause.
What?
Do you know what a bustle is?
No. What's a bustle?
It's a fashion term.
Oh.
It's an old-fashioned term.
What is bustle?
From like the 1800s. You know those Victorian photos where the women are all corseted and then behind them, they like on their butt they have like all the fabric?
Yes.
That's a bustle.
Actually, I feel like I knew that because
For wedding dresses.
Yes.
You bustle them up.
Exactly, yes. I had to bustle up the bride's bustle. I had to bustle her bustle.
So speaking of all the bustling, come bustle with us at The Amplified Woman.
At The Amplified Woman. It's amazing. Doors close April 7th. We are still accepting a few more applicants, and you can learn more at theamplifycollective.com/incubator to learn more about how to find more ease and grace in your life. It's going to be super good.
Yeah.
Okay. So in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about being at peace with your body. And what does it mean to be grounded in your being, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
I think so. And also, too, you know, the other angle of really just kind of loving how you feel. Like
how you feel in your body.
Yeah, and being able to look in the mirror, and which is hard for a lot of us women, and like really be at peace with our bodies.
Yes. So what's interesting is that I've learned recently that when I look back into my life, I'm going to just do an accent from now on.
No,
so
she's not.
I think I could pull it off. I think I could do it.
No one's taking you seriously right now.
Okay, well, I mean,
As if anyone ever takes us seriously. And
Okay, I'm a very smart person, okay? I know a lot of shit.
she's educated.
I am educated in things. So I recently have been doing some work with my helper, coach, therapist, teacher, whatever you fuck want to call her, where I shared how I feel like when I look back in my life, there are big chunks of my life where I felt like kind of spaced out. Like things kind of happens
I was
like
just thinking about this today.
around me, but I wasn't really in my life. It's very easy when you look back, right? Looking back is what? Isn't there a phrase about looking back?
Don't look back unless it's going to propel you forward.
No,
or
that's
something.
not. That's not it. Okay. Well, it's easier to look. It's easy to look back and be like, oh, I should have changed things. I should have done things. But I look back to really learn about how I was and what I need to do to move forward. And so when I look back and I realize that there's these big chunks of my life where I wasn't really grounded, I wasn't really there. I don't know where I was, but I wasn't there. That spaced out experience is not being grounded in your body.
I remember I was the secretary for an organization in college, and I was literally thinking about this on the drive over here today.
Oh, interesting.
And I was the secretary for this organization. I do not remember, and I know that I attended the meetings.
Yeah.
I cannot recall or pull back any memories of any of those meetings
Interesting.
or of anyone that I met there, or like nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. It's so we're not saying that if you are fully grounded in your body, then you remember everything because memory is different. But
Oh, I was definitely not grounded in my body when I was in college.
right. But there is a connection between not being grounded in your body and literally not remembering things that are going on
And
in your
so
life.
when Tice is talking about grounding, if you're unfamiliar with this term, it's really like a deep presence and
Yeah.
connection.
So, for example, here's a great example. How many of you, because I know I've done this, will be rushing around to get ready, will get in your car only to realize you left your coffee on top of your car? Or, you locked the keys out of your house.
Or you're still wearing your slippers.
Or you're still wearing
I do
your
that one
slippers.
all the time.
Yeah. So, these are tiny little experiences that are a great indicator that you're not really being present, that you're not embodied, you're not grounded in your body, you're in your head thinking about something in the future, in the past, or whatever.
So the difference is for me, typically when I'm in my head, it's a higher energy, kind of like franticness.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm in my body, it's just kind of like this deep peace, like grounded, I don't even know what other word to use, feeling where I'm just like, I feel really sunk, like into my body.
Yeah. A lot of us were not taught to be grounded or even feel safe in our body because of trauma, because of experiences we had in our childhood, because of society. We're just not taught to be in our bodies. And so then it's no wonder that we look back and we realize, shit, like I wasn't even really living in my life. I wasn't even really there. I was somewhere else. And that scares me because I don't really want to get to my dying deathbed and realize that my entire life I wasn't really present to it. And so we're going to talk about, what it looks like to kind of get a little bit more grounded and get a little bit more into that presence so that you can start to be more what's the benefit of this? Be more in your feelings, be more receptive to the world and what's going on around you, to not forget your coffee cup at the top of your car.
And for me, it's just like experiencing life. Like
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm not grounded, you know those little water bugs that just kind of like skim the surface of the water, they don't actually go into the water.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I'm like when I'm ungrounded. Like
So
I'm
you don't
not-
want to walk on water.
Well, I'm just not like in it, like I'm going through the motions, I'm experiencing it. I'm there, but I'm not like there.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're being present, if you're super connected, you're going to just be able to experience it more. You're gonna like dive down into that water and get wet and feel all the feelings and, experience the myriad of things we get to experience here as humans.
I feel like the reason why it's so hard to embody our body is because embodying our body, and I'm just going to say embodying your body again and again and again. So you're welcome.
Hashtag.
You're welcome to take a shot for every time I say embodying your body. But the reason why we have such a hard time with it is that because when you're in your body, when you're present, you have to then accept and be open to both the bad and the good. And oftentimes we're terrified of the bad. Again, because of trauma, because of past life experiences, we're just terrified of feeling the harder feelings like sadness and overwhelm and all those things. So it's easier for us to kind of put a lid on all the negative emotions, and by doing that, unfortunately, you're also putting a lid on all the positive emotions too. So you don't feel the bad, but you're also not really feeling the spontaneous joy and um, the great amount of presence and depth that life offers because you're closing yourself off. Does that make sense?
So let's talk about some really kind of tangible ways that we get into our bodies and that we feel really at peace and at home in our bodies.
Okay, go.
So my first primary way is movement. This has been something that's been coming up for me a lot lately. I have not had a physical movement. So Thais makes fun of me because we went to spin class last year. And
I've been to one spin class last year. No, I'm kidding.
Well, it was the
No, but
one
I
that
wasn't
she
kidding.
was there with me, but I went for 5 or 6. So
Oh my god, spin is so painful on the vagina.
I
It's
love
just
it.
so painful.
Well,
I
not
just
that
can't.
part of it.
I
but-
can't get over it. The entire class, I'm like, ouch, gina. I'm really embodied in my physical gina space, and I can't handle anything else.
So
Why do the seats
anyways,
have to be so uncomfortable?
back to the topic at
Please
hand.
tell me. I need to understand.
So as Thais is talking about feeling into all the feelings, the good and the bad, here I am at spin class, getting into my body in ways that I hadn't gotten into my body in maybe my whole life, most likely a lot of years. And I started bawling in the middle of spin class, and it was not from the pain. My vagina did not hurt like Thais's did.
Okay.
I
poor Gigi.
It was because I was accessing these physical areas of my body that were holding and storing this emotion that I just hadn't allowed to release.
Well, it's interesting because, this is very deeply connected to research that everything that happens in your life gets stored in your body. Even things that you don't remember, things that you don't have, you can't recall, they're all stored in your body. So people who have experienced trauma and then kind of forget about it because that's their defensive mechanism, when they get re-traumatized by some experience, they may not even cognitively understand that they're being traumatized, but their body is experiencing the trauma again. And so it's in the yoga tradition, we hear this a lot and we teach this a lot, that when you're doing a pigeon pose, right, like opening up your hips, a lot of emotions are stored in your hips, and
that's where I store almost all of my emotions.
Well, that's where most people store their emotions.
Is what happened in spin class, because I started getting into those areas. And even now with my aerial yoga practice, we do so much hip opening. I haven't even told you, I've started doing split exercises that are really allowing me to kind of tap into those deep areas of my body that I have never accessed before.
Yeah. So, part of being grounded in your body is a lot of invitation to come into presence. And one of the things that I teach quite often is just the power of using your breath and coming back to your breath. This is nothing fancy. It's nothing sexy, but it's so deeply, deeply powerful. I will, on a very consistent basis, bring my energy and my focus on my breath, and that helps me to ground. It helps me to come back into the moment. And on an anatomical level, when you're inhaling, you're activating the sympathetic nervous system. That's your activators. So if you do, let's say 5 short inhales, that energizes you. That makes you more active. And then if you emphasize the exhale by taking a really long, deep breath out, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's your cooling, your calming mechanism. And so if you include more breath exercises into your life, see if you can lengthen your exhales. See if you can double the length of your exhales to your inhales. So let's say a 2 count for your inhale, a 4 count to your exhale. I like to do breaths where you do about 6 breaths in 1 minute. If you do that every hour, you'll be amazed at how much that slows your processes down. It grounds you. It brings you back into the present moment. It allows you to catch up with your feelings and everything that's coming up and what's happening, so that you can then move forward. It's kind of like when you reboot the computer. That's what it is.
So, question.
Answer.
What am I supposed to think about as I'm breathing, Thais, though? I mean, like, I just get, like, my thoughts just keep popping up and then I'm breathing, but, like, I'm still up in my head. Then what?
Well, good. That's a good sign. It means that you have a brain. So, whew, very worried for a hot second that you didn't have a brain, but you do. So it's good that you have thoughts, because that's the whole purpose of the brain, is to keep you in, surviving. And thoughts are a very amazing part of our brain function. It's what allows us to be humans. So there's nothing wrong with having thoughts. And when people say like, "Oh, I can't meditate because my thoughts are crazy," it's like saying, "Well, I can't eat because I'm hungry." It doesn't make sense. Like, we breathe, we meditate in order to support us in calming our mind down. And so the goal of breath work and meditation is not to defeat the thoughts, or not have any thoughts, or empty the mind, or blank the mind, because that's not possible. It's just an invitation for you to bring your focus on something that's not your thoughts, because oftentimes we take our thoughts to be serious and to be real, right? Like, you don't look at a white wall and you think, "Oh, that wall is black." No, that wall is white. Like, you don't think stupid thoughts. And so when you say to yourself, "I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough," then we take those things to be very serious, because we don't think stupid thoughts. But those thoughts are not real. And so we want to start to disconnect ourselves from our thoughts. And that's the process of meditation, of breath work, is to separate ourselves from our thoughts. So if your thoughts are going, that's great. But see if you can bring your attention, your awareness, to your breath for just a minute. I mean, we can do this. I believe in you. If you say, "I don't have time for meditation," it's like, then do you have time to feel like crap and shit and to not really live your life? Like, no, you don't have time for that. So even just a minute, 5 minutes a day.
Yeah, this is really important. A lot of people think like, oh, well, if I'm, meditating, I have to block off like 2 hours or whatever. Like, no, you can literally do a minute
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah.
There's a really great app called Calm.
I
That
use
you,
Insight Timer.
oh yeah, Insight Timer, both are really good. So that could be an opportunity for you to just start developing some sort of practice with getting grounded, getting present in your
And
body.
I deeply believe that if you feel like you should meditate, like if you feel like you should do it, then you shouldn't do it. The act of should means that you're not ready. So if you're shooting yourself, then fucking stop shooting yourself. Instead, oftentimes meditation is so overwhelming and terrifying because we're so afraid to actually meet us where we're at. We're afraid of meeting our emotions. We're afraid of meeting the trauma that we've experienced. We're afraid of our internal systems. And yeah, if you haven't checked out what's been going on inside of you for 30, 40, 50 years, it's a little scary and daunting to start slowing down, because it means that you're going to have to start to face those things. So start slowly. One of the things that I recommend is to start including mindfulness practices in your everyday activities. One thing that my mom said, my mom is also a yoga teacher and she's fucking brilliant. She's like, in yoga classes, the harder yoga classes, it's not necessarily that the postures are harder, it's that the transitions are harder. And I love that. The whole point of an advanced yoga practice is an advanced transition process. And that's life, right? Like, it's the transitions that are challenging. It's the transitions where we tend to check out. So when you're driving in the car, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're in the middle of two activities, that's an opportunity for you to slow down and bring awareness to your brushing, bring awareness to your drinking water. See if you can really taste that water in your mouth as you're swallowing it. Notice how that water travels down your body, right? Spending even just a little bit of time on mindful activities is a great way to start inviting the meditation practice into your life.
So we have talked about being at peace within our bodies on the inside.
Yes.
So let's talk about being at peace with our physical appearance of our bodies.
Oh, jeez. How much time do we have?
I know, right? This is a hard
such
one.
a big one. Yeah.
Well, because, Thais and I will be the first to tell you, like, I'm not necessarily 100% confident being naked in front of a mirror.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
Why?
I just saw Brie naked yesterday.
We were at the naked lady spa yesterday.
Yeah. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Huh. Sounds like you have to do some mirror work.
Well, yeah, but I'm not really gonna. I guess I'm not at a stage in my life where I'm gonna prioritize standing naked in front of my mirror.
Why not? I think it's a great idea. I mean, if we want to feel sexual and sensual, if we want to feel like embodied in our body, then we kind of have to love our physical body. So I mean, of course, I've been a binge eater and anorexic, bulimic. No, not bulimic. I never puked. But what's that? The over exercising. I've done all of the things. And while I was never diagnosed as an actual disorder because it requires you to do it a certain amount of times every week in order for it to be diagnosed as a technical disorder, it did really run my life. And for a very long time, I thought I was so fat and overweight and obese and ugly, and I was never any of those things. Um, but it was a very real reality for me that my body was not the way it was supposed to be loved and lovable. And what I found was that it was literally nothing to do with the physical body. Our obsession with our physical body has nothing to do with our physical body. It has everything to do with us needing to control something in our lives. And when you have an eating disorder, it's because you feel so out of control in so many other areas of your life that you pinpoint one thing, like your body, that you can obsess with and you can control, and that makes you feel super safe.
So let's talk about, where are you at now with feeling at peace with your body?
Yeah. Well, gosh, after 10 years of doing this work, I'm actually at the point where I literally do not have a negative thought about my body. Like I can look in the mirror and I don't have a single opinion or thought about whether or not my lumps and bumps are good or bad. So I'm at a place where it's called equanimity in the Buddhist tradition. Equanimity is the ability to be completely not numb or not care, but almost a sense of just it is what it is and just in complete honorance and reverence to what is. And that's kind of how I feel about my body. I've come a long, long way. Um, and it's so interesting. Like now when the thought does pop up, when like I look at a video of me and I'm like, wow, my teeth are crooked. It doesn't stick. And I think that that's the healing. That's the work of a healed woman. It's not that you never are self-conscious or you never feel ugly or whatever. Of course, there are days when, I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, my pimples. But it doesn't stick. It doesn't then become a whole story of, oh, and then I'm bad and then I'm wrong. And wow, how could I let myself get this way? And I'm so ugly and no one's going to ever love me. It just doesn't stick. It's like, whoa, the pimples, done. And I think that I guess that's what we want to be able to get to, a place where, like, if I look at my dog and I'm like, wow, Chewy, you have a fur that's sticking out. It's like, okay, he has a fur that's sticking out, but it doesn't mean anything about him or his lovability or his capacity to experience joy in life. It's just a dog has a fur sticking out, right? So that's where I think is a really healthy relationship with our body. It's not that we're 100% satisfied. It's just whenever there is that moment of dissatisfaction, it just doesn't stick.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and so a lot of that work started by finding peace in my body. And now actually I'm in the healing journey of coming back to a place of embodying my body, because for a long time I was feeling my feelings and I had to do a lot of the internal work, but I couldn't really live in my body because I was doing the healing work of my body, if that makes sense. And now that I've kind of healed my relationship with my body, it's time for me to come back into embodying fully my body. And that's the journey that I've been on. Because I don't, again, like I said, I don't want to go back and be like, wow, I really didn't really live my life. I was kind of somewhere else the entire time. So it's a fun journey. And I know that you can get so much deeper with this. So we're excited to bring Sheila on and talk more about this. And if you're having a hard time being in your body, we highly, highly recommend that you start to infuse some of the practices that we talked about today. Just something to do with physical movement, something to do with breath, something to do with mindfulness. I know that these tools seem so like everyone talks about them.
They're really simple tools,
but they're life changing.
Yeah, and it's amazing. The more that I get into this work, the more I realize the power of the simplicity.
Yeah.
So they might seem really kind of like mundane or easy or ridiculous or silly recommendations, but it's always the simplest tools that will create the biggest impact in your life.
And what's really cool is that for the Amplified Woman, we're actually bringing on a guest who is in the fitness industry, and she does something really cool in the industry where she talks a lot about how if you could develop an internal resilience and a lovability of your body, you develop a sense of a healthy defense against being manipulated by the media and by people outside of you. It's a really cool perspective because I had never even thought about it that way. But now that she's talking about it, I'm really seeing how that's true, which is when you can really love who you are, love being inside your body and the outside of your body, you're less influenced by other people telling you that you don't look as, you're not, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
don't look the way you're supposed to look.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me, especially, having been in fashion and, I know I used to always get all the subscriptions, right?
Yeah.
Vogue, Elle, InStyle, Harper's Bazaar, like all of them I would get. And I can look through a magazine like that and not see the manipulative advertising that they do.
Yeah.
Like I literally look through magazines looking at colors
Well,
and
you do see
textures
it,
and
but you
I
don't
see
get
it, but I
influenced
don't,
it.
right.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm numb to it now.
Exactly. Because
So-
you developed such a healthy sense of your internal and external experience.
Yeah. I do remember as a little girl looking through magazines and seeing those things. And
Yeah.
even my mom's brought me a few of my like decoupage things from when I was a high schooler and like looking at all the bodies that I had like pinned and
That's amazing.
yeah, it's interesting. So
So we're going to be diving in. The first month of the Amplified Woman is around the conversation of movement and integrating your body experience into your life and slowing down enough to feel the internal guidance systems that is within your body telling you what's up, telling you what you need to do. The reason why I started binging was because my body was like, Thais, I've had enough of your controlling over me. I'm going to start expanding my sense of self until you catch up and you do so yourself. And so it's a really, really powerful month. So if you're interested in learning more about the Amplified Woman, you can check out our website, theamplifycollective.com/incubator. We are accepting a few more applications. We would love for you to consider joining us. And now let's bring on Miss Sheila.
Oh, amplifiers, do we have a wonderful surprise for you today?
Well, not necessarily a surprise, just a really epic guest. Sheila Viers is one of our dear friends here in Los Angeles. She is an epic, extraordinary woman. We're so excited to interview her today and get to know more about her and the impact that she's making in the world. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Since our listeners don't know much about you, let me just read your bio quick and then we can get started. Sheila Viers' mission is to help women break free from yo-yo dieting and self-sabotage so that they can feel amazing in their skin. Renowned for her non-diet approach to weight loss, Sheila's own healthy living journey began over a decade ago when she decided it was time to end her struggle with body image and food for good. After years of yo-yo dieting, over-exercising, and issues ranging from food sensitivities to hormonal problems, she learned how to get out of quote-unquote body jail, lost 35 pounds, and now teaches women how to create this freedom and ease in their own lives. Her vision extends far beyond weight loss, and her unique ability to inspire women to step into their confidence and their dream life is catching fire. Welcome, Miss Sheila.
Thank you. Yes, it's quite a long, extensive bio, but I mean, I feel like it kind of covers a lot of different bases beyond just like women in weight loss, but like it really connects with so much more than that, I think, when it comes to women and how they show up in their lives.
I love it. So let's begin our conversation with answering the question of what does it look like for you, Sheila, to live an amplified life?
I've thought about this because I've listened to your podcast in the past, and I feel like for me personally, living an amplified life is really about showing up and being transparent, but like modeling that example of a woman who can be confident even in her own imperfection. I like to say we are all this imperfectly perfect humanness that we're walking around, and we can shine our light even though like we don't have it all figured out. None of us do, really, right?
Wait, we don't?
Speak for yourself, Sheila. I have it all figured out. I love it. So how did you get into this journey with weight loss and with dieting, and I guess not the adventure of dieting, but the adventure of getting out of it? Like, what was that transformation for you?
Well, for me, it started way back when I was in high school, and I kind of got into the world of fitness for all the wrong reasons, I like to say, because, I was very much driven by that idea of, getting skinnier, and I was a cheerleader, and I wanted to be a top instead of a base. The tops were the ones that were like thrown around in the air, and all the focus was on them. And in the beginning, that was for me like what I thought I needed to achieve in order to be beautiful or special or important. And so that was kind of like where my journey into weight loss and dieting began. And I kind of went through it all the way through college and into my career. And at some point, I started to realize that that number on the scale or on the waistband of my pants was not going to make me feel the way that I thought that it was going to make me feel. And that I had to really discover how to love my body now on the way to whatever physical goals I set for myself from that mindset of self-discovery and self-love versus from the mindset of validation. And it really opened my eyes up to this idea that like there has to be a better way. And once I shifted my perspective around that, that's when the better way just started appearing for me. And that was in doing my own research around emotional health and our emotions and like how they really do have a direct effect on our body's ability to function optimally. And so, it was kind of this organic, like following the breadcrumbs in order to heal myself, which then led naturally into me working with other women who were like, oh my gosh, I'm going through that too. Can you help me? And so I never really set out to be a health coach. It just kind of happened. But it's so exactly where I'm supposed to be.
What was like that like did you have a moment where it like you just had to kind of give up, or like was there like one thing that really shifted and like kind of pushed you into this world?
So there was two things, actually, two, like, I guess, turning points for me. The first one was when I was dieting hardcore, and I finally started working with an online trainer who set up all these different macros for me. And so I was following this very strict regimen of this many calories per day and this much protein and so forth. And I ended up actually achieving my weight loss goal. But what happened was that it wasn't like this fairy tale ending that I thought it would be, where I'd like, go out into the world and live my life fully and show up as I wanted to be. I actually felt more in jail, this body jail, as I like to call it, than ever, because I was so afraid of like gaining the weight back. And I didn't trust myself in normal environments like happy hour with girlfriends or, in front of a basket of tortilla chips and guacamole. Like I thought I was going to sabotage myself. So I was kind of living as this hermit. I wouldn't do anything. I just continued to eat my chicken and broccoli every day. And I realized like, this is not the way that I want to live. And so that was like the first moment where I realized I've got to figure this out because this is not how I want to feel. And then later, so I started going into this whole idea of, approaching how do I do this differently? I just kind of, reading different books and finding different things and learning a little bit. But what ended up happening is that I still continued that sort of a lifestyle and was very restrictive. And it started showing up with my hormones. My body was just really out of whack. I had acne, digestive issues, lots of like food sensitivities. And so I started going to different doctors and alternative doctors. And there was one point where I went to a doctor who had a nutritionist that he was working with. And the nutritionist told me that he thought that I had Hashimoto's disease. He wasn't positive, but at the time, the test to find out for sure was really expensive. So he wanted to just treat me as if I had it. And we would he was going to put me on even more, pills and supplements and things like that than I already was taking, which was this huge laundry list, and have me avoid even more foods than I was previously. And I was already very confused because I felt like every single doctor told me something different about what I shouldn't be eating. And I walked out, I was paying my bill, and I just in that moment realized like, no, this is not my truth. And my truth is that my body is this amazing miracle of a machine and it can heal itself. And I just have to create the space and the energy for it to be able to do that. And that really was the shifting point for me, where I knew that it was so much more than the stuff I had been hearing, and that I had way more power than I thought I had up until that point.
I'm so glad that you shared that, and I know that many women that are listening now may be experiencing what you're experiencing, because we live in a society that's so obsessed with having a healthy body, but from a place of it has to look a certain way and it has to feel a certain way, or else it's technically not healthy. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it has to fit this stereotype of health in order for it to be healthy. And I love that you started to discover that there's got to be a way that you can do it with your own internal system and allowing your body to guide you.
Yes, and it's so liberating to be in that sort of a place where you trust your body and you look to it as your ultimate expert over and above all other feedback that you get.
And so, what would you say to someone who is at the very beginning, who doesn't really, she's in pain, she's not feeding herself yet well, she doesn't like being in her body, right? She's experiencing that body jail. Like, what's the first step that you recommend people taking?
Well, I think awareness is the first step, and starting to untangle some of the beliefs that we hold that are not necessarily true across the board. They're just true because we have told ourselves that they are, and part of that is with this idea of comparison, like you said, like measuring up or fitting this example of what we think it looks like to be healthy. And I'll share, like, if you look across social media, there's a lot of people who look healthy on the outside that are actually not that healthy emotionally or physically behind the scenes. And so when you change the lens that you look at the world through, you can start to become aware of, like, okay, whoa, like, what is it that I actually want, and what types of beliefs am I holding that are serving that and helping me move towards that, and what types of beliefs am I holding that are actually sabotaging me or holding me back.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned emotional health. Can we go into that a little bit? Like, what does that mean for you when you say emotional health?
Well, so emotional health really has to do with our emotions, obviously, and how we feel on a daily basis. And so I think a lot of times we tend to, like, push ourselves through, or I talk a lot about how we wake up every day and we kind of like pick up this sack of like stories and, like, feelings of being a victim, or we're mad at this person, or we have all of these things to do and we feel overwhelmed. And that's just kind of normal for most people. It's just kind of normal to run around with too many things to do and not enough time in the day and all of these expectations and obligations, and then all of the emotions about, past hurt and pain and stuff. And all of these emotions create a stress response in the body. And so when you're like walking around on your day-to-day life in this stress response, your emotional health is not that great. And that's when your body can over time start to have all of these physical symptoms, because the body's not made to be in that fight or flight mode consistently. It's supposed to be in that, like, in short spurts of time when you're trying to get out of danger. And that's what, it's normal. And then I think that's also why there's so many it's so common to have adrenal fatigue and food sensitivities and, migraines, because our body's giving us signals that's saying, like, hey, pay attention, but we just continue to ignore it.
So you mentioned earlier, a step to get people, like, untangling their beliefs. If they're waking up every day and they have this sack of, overwhelm and all these things that happened yesterday and they're picking it up again today, what is, like, the first thing that you would recommend for them to kind of start choosing to maybe
drop the sack,
drop it,
drop the sack,
like, not pick it up today?
Just the word sack just makes me think of all sorts of dirty things.
I know. When I said it, I was like, this isn't like the best word, but
No, Sheila, it's the best word.
The whole problem with that is that we're, like, with our emotional health and with all of the stress and the sack and everything else, is that we're like running around in our head all day long. Like, we're not in our body, we're not connected to ourselves, our spirit. We're just kind of trying to keep up and get through the day, and, like, it's like we're not thriving, we're just trying to survive. And so one of the best things that we can do is to create that spiritual practice that gives us that time and space in our calendar to be able to connect and to heal and to stop thinking and just breathe and slow down and really understand how we can listen. That's where we create the space to be able to listen to our bodies versus just ignoring it and pressing on every day.
So important to have that time to connect with our spirit, to let go of that, like, humanness of, the stress and the things like that. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. And what does it look like for you? Like, what does your spiritual practice look like, Sheila?
So for me, it kind of changes depending on what feels best, on a week by week basis. But for the most part, it's some level of meditation and journaling. And so sometimes, like, for instance, I've been listening to Marianne Williamson's her live streams on Tuesday nights, and so I'll just journal while I'm listening, and then do a meditation, like a guided meditation that she offers. Or I'll listen to guided meditations that I really resonate with from YouTube, and one of them, Abraham Hicks, has some really good ones that I love. Other times I'll meditate and just listen to the sound of my breathing or something, in my environment, just to help to slow my mind down and stop thinking and just be, because that's the whole real benefit, or one of the biggest benefits of meditation, is to just be. And then I like journaling about either like a mantra flow, where I start with a mantra and just like write and let whatever comes out come out. Or I do lists of appreciation, so just appreciating anything and everything. And another favorite is to do the like guided questioning. So I'll ask a question of myself, basically, or of my higher spirit, my source energy. I'll write it in my journal, and then I'll allow the answer to flow through me, which sounds so weird, but once you get into the practice of doing this, pretty much every single question that you have, you'll be able to answer for yourself. Like, all of the answers are within. We're just, again, disconnected from it. So once you practice that muscle of connection, then you tend to get the answers more quickly from within, versus like, having to ask all of our friends or our mentors or anyone else. Like, we know it's right in and of ourselves.
I love it. So this kind of goes hand in hand. I happen to know this because, I know Sheila. Her Sheila's word for 2017, or her words, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, are ease and flow.
Well, so I've kind of, and I did some more work around that. I've bundled it all up into the word space, and that really is space, meaning like exactly what we're talking about, like, setting healthy boundaries, allowing myself the space to have creativity or self-care, or really allowing things more versus feeling like I have to take so much action. And so everything that we're talking about right now is actually one of the big lessons that I learned last year, is that I really want to practice more of this, allowing more of this connection to my feminine energy, and show myself and be that example of a woman who is not so much in that go mode all of the time.
I'm just like letting your words marinate over me. I think this conversation is so important, especially as we see women wanting to claim more and more space in their lives. It's so important that they root and ground in something that feels good within themselves. And I know that it's, very important for us to have a spiritual practice, but I'm curious, Sheila, like, I'm sure that wasn't always the case for you, right? Like, you weren't born meditating. At least I don't think so. If you were, please enlighten me. But I'm curious, like, how did you get started with this whole spiritual practice and understanding?
I have been that type A woman that's like, gotta make shit happen, gotta, like, constantly have the next thing on the list of what she's trying to accomplish forever. Like, I think back to, and I actually, this was another aha that I had last year, was that when I was young, I was always validated or rewarded through like getting really good grades in school. So I was really good at getting good grades. I'm not saying I was the smartest person, and I don't actually feel like I retained all of the stuff that I've learned in school. I feel like I just knew how to get a good grade, so that then I could be validated through, my parents, my grandparents giving me money and everything else when I got good grades. So I feel like that for me has like been this pattern throughout my life, where it was always like, how can I get that outward validation to show myself that I'm good enough? And I had to go through that untangling process where I realized, like, it's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's not about being in fast forward all of the time. It really is about deciding what I want and then how I want to feel and what I want my life to look like. And I still have to go through and remind myself a lot of this stuff because it is so common, especially as a female entrepreneur, to hear these messages of like, you got to produce, or like, the Gary Vee, God bless him, it sticks in my brain. In one of his books, he talks about how you have to like work until you bleed through your eyeballs.
Oh my
And
God.
like, that's not me. Like, I do not want that. As much as I, in the past, had been so attached to like proving myself, I know now more than ever that what I really want is to be able to build a business and have a life that's full of that feminine energy where it's like you can work with the flow. You can, like go with the stream versus trying to like push this giant boulder up a hill that we think is what we need to do in order to be successful. And I don't believe that it has to be that way.
I love it. I've found that the more I'm in that flow and I actually do less, I'm making more of an impact, like attracting more clients. It's amazing what happens when you stop that fight.
Yeah. And it feels so good to be that example because that's exactly like what I'm teaching. So I kind of feel like it's like my responsibility to be like, see, this is how I do it and you can do it too. And it doesn't have to be about working harder. It's really about, again, taking that step back, looking at our beliefs and looking at how we can allow more versus push more.
Yep. I mean, I always say that realistically, we only each need to do 2 or 3 things a day. Like, if they're the right things, you really only need to do 2 or 3 things a day. And it's more than enough to create the kind of life and business that you want to be living.
Yeah, I do. I do believe that. Alignment is everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So what's next for you, Sheila? Like, what are you looking at creating for yourself in 2017?
So for me, and this whole idea of space is really to give me that container to be able to connect with my creativity again. And so, I've written programs. I have a year-long immersion program that I'm currently running for 2017. I have a Jumpstart program, and I'm going through and refreshing the Jumpstart right now. And for me, like being in that space, like of creativity, of allowing the sort of messages to flow through me, is so important for that kind of work. And I also am getting prepared. I am in preparation, I guess, to write a book. And that, again, it's like for me to be able to do something like that, I am fully aware that I am not writing the book. It is flowing through me. Like that's how every single one of my programs have come together. It's like getting into that creative connection and just allowing it to unfold in the perfect way. And so if I'm just in this masculine go mode, I'm not connected. I'm not like in my creativity. So that was one of the reasons why I knew that this was so important. Not to mention that, I want to create more space for me to live my life fully and to experience things that like cannot not benefit my work. The more I show up and live my life, the more that affects my work. In fact, I actually have something on my vision board. It says, taking time to live life will only inspire your work. And I feel like that's so true. And so I'm making like conscious decisions this year to allow that in my schedule.
Yeah, you're an avid traveler. I know that that's like one of the ways that you love to live life. So, what's on your list for travel this year?
Well, ideally, my like, I don't know, bucket list is the wrong word. I don't like bucket list, but my like
sack list.
My my
Classic.
My vision board trip would be to go to Bora Bora and stay in an overwater bungalow. So if
fun.
that and I would love to do that before I have a family and so forth. So that is one of the things that's like top of my list for this year or early next year. Other than that, like I don't have specific things. Like I thought I was kind of feeling into going to Europe, but I don't know. Like there's nothing specific travel wise that's pulling me. It's more so this feeling of like just being open to the adventure of what's next. And
now, wait, is Bora Bora the place that you can swim with the pigs? Is that Bora Bora?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hold on. I'm going to look it up.
It might be the Maldives.
While she's looking that up.
Swim
Sheila,
with pigs.
people who are interested in learning more about you, where can they find you?
They can go to SheilaViers.com, or if they want, I do have a special free guide that they can download, and that is all about basically losing weight without restriction. I talk about how to stop dieting and start living. And so if they go to SheilaViers.com/free gift, they can download that resource. It's called 3 Steps to Losing Weight Without Restriction. So
I love
it's
it.
really good, and it covers a lot of like the top tips that I have related to how to live this and practice this non-diet approach to achieving your dream body.
I love it. Well, we will definitely add that to the show notes. And did you find your swimming with the pigs yet?
It says the Bahamas. Is the Bahamas Bora Bora? I don't know.
No. It's a completely other side of the world.
Nope, I failed. Sorry. You have to go somewhere else to swim with pigs. The pictures look amazing, though.
Well, yeah, that would be an experience for sure.
And we are going to continue to ask Sheila some really fun questions in our extended cut interview. So if you're not in our Facebook group yet, come join us. It's beamplified.community instead of .com. It's not beamplified.community.com. beamplified.community. That's where you'll find our Facebook group, and you can join us and get all access pass to all things amplified. And that's it. That's all we got for you.
Yeah, so thank you, Sheila. And don't forget, you can always find us on all the socials at The Amplify Co. So be sure to hop on over now, join us in the group, and
go be amplified.
Yes, that.
Go be amplified.
Go be amplified. Okay, bye.